Welcome, Mars Hill students. This is our logic lesson for the week. Let's begin in prayer. Pater noster, qui es in caelis, sanctificater nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua, sicut in caelo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimitte nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittibus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos indicas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen. All right. So we are wrapping up quarter 3, and that means that you should be mailing in your exams this week. If you need a little bit of extra time because of all the craziness that's going on, just send me an email and let me know. But they should be mailed straight to me. And we do need to keep up with the schedule. And that means moving on to the chapter on disjunctive syllogisms. So that's what we'll be doing. We're getting ready for quarter 4, and that means ramping up for the big debate. This debate centers on the existence of God. So we're going to split up into 2 teams. The first team is going to argue that there is a God, and that is going to be Matthew, Joshua, and Dana. The second team is going to argue that there is no God, and that's going to be Andrew and Catherine. Okay, so what you will need to do this week, you don't need to start putting together any arguments for the debate, but you do need to get in contact with your team members and have some way of having regular communication. In the past, teams have used Google Hangouts. You can start a Discord server. You could use Zoom meetings. All of those would be great options. Have an email thread, have a Snapchat thread, or whatever tools work for you guys. But you need to work out with your team some way of staying in contact. Okay, on to the material for this chapter. We're doing the disjunctive syllogism. Now, disjunctions happen anytime you have a or statement. When I say A or B. Now, importantly, in English, or can mean 2 things. It can be what's called an inclusive or an exclusive or. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that. If I say that you can either go to the University of Kentucky for college, or you can go to Asbury for college, the implication is that you can't do both. You don't have enough money and you can't attend 2 colleges at the same time. It's just not going to work out. So that is an exclusive or. UK or Asbury, but not both. Okay? An inclusive or would be if I said, look, I really, really like chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream. And I also really like peanut butter fudge ice cream. So when I go to the ice cream store, I'm either going to get chocolate chip cookie dough or I'm going to get peanut butter fudge. Now, the idea though is if those are my 2 favorite flavors, I could get both, right? I could walk out of the store with an ice cream cone that has 2 scoops in it, and I've got both peanut butter fudge and chocolate chip cookie dough. Okay, so that's what's called an inclusive or. Now, it's very important that for logic, we are always going to use the inclusive sense of or. Okay, so if you're given a range of options, A or B or C or D, there could be, say, A and C are both true. All that you know is that at least one of those options is true. Okay, it can't be the case that they're all false. All right. Now that leads to a basic form of argumentation, which is called a disjunctive syllogism, or more colloquially, it's called a argument from elimination. You see this a lot in detective stories like Sherlock Holmes or murder mysteries. Okay, you've got a range of options. Okay, it's either Joe who did it, or Tom who did it, or Sally who did it, and we can rule out Joe and Tom. And so what does that mean? That means that Sally is the murderer. Now, in the basic disjunctive syllogism, you have to have just 2 options, okay? A or B, and then you rule out one or the other options. You rule out A or you rule out B. So the first premise is an either or, A or B. The second premise is not A or not B. And then the conclusion is that you derive the remaining option. Okay, so I say A or B, premise, not A, second premise, therefore conclusion, B. Or it could go the other way. I could say A or B, premise, not B, second premise, therefore derived conclusion, A. Okay, now a very famous example of this is the one that you had to analyze for this week from C.S. Lewis. I'm looking at a picture of him on my wall right now. He gave the famous what's called the Trilemma, which is an argument for the deity of Christ. Now, this argument really only works against someone who believes that Jesus was a historical figure and believes that Jesus was, a good, wise teacher or a prophet or something like that. Okay? It's not going to work against the radical skeptic who just doesn't even think that Jesus exists. Okay? But there are a lot of people out there who they believe that Jesus was real. They believe that he was a historical figure. And they say things like, oh, he was this very good, wise, holy teacher. They just don't believe that Jesus was God. Okay? So this argument is for them. And you can summarize it by liar, lunatic, or Lord. Okay? The sort of 3 L's help stick it in your mind. The argument goes like this. Okay? First, we take as a premise that Jesus did, in fact, claim to be God. We have lots of historical data for this, okay? And it's recorded in the Gospels. There's several passages where Jesus pretty straight up says that he is God. Now, you got to think about the kind of person who would go around and publicly say that he's God. You got 3 basic options. Either he's a liar, he's not telling the truth, and he knows that he's not telling the truth, which would mean that he's a pretty nasty dude. So not a good, wise teacher. Okay? Or option B, he's not telling the truth, but he doesn't really understand that he's not telling the truth. So he's just a crazy person. He's a lunatic. Okay? And he's just going around saying that he's God, but he's out of his mind. Now, again, that doesn't make him evil. He might still be good in some sense, but it doesn't make him a wise teacher that you ought to listen to his teachings. He's just a crazy person. There's lots of people in insane asylums that think that they're God. All right? The third option is that he's telling the truth, that he actually is. He knows what he's talking about, and he is, in fact, God. Okay? So against the person who would say that Jesus is just a good, wise teacher, you say, well, you got 3 options. He's a liar, he's a lunatic, or he actually is the Lord. All right? Well, he's not a liar by your own admission because he's good. He's not a lunatic because he's a wise teacher. So the only option left is option 3, that he actually is, in fact, the Lord. All right. I hope that helped you understand this chapter. I know it was very brief. If you have any questions, feel free to email me and ask for help. I hope that I will see you somewhat soon. Goodbye.